Bears Nation. Bears Nation. Bears Nation.
Yeah, so we're going to start Justin.
I'm going to approach this game like I've approached the last two games.
I think it's going to be a good opportunity for him.
Moving the ball down the field and trying to score a touchdown every drive.
We just want to see him play hard and play well.
I'm just going to approach it like the same way and just go out there and play my hardest.
It's Adams again! The connection and the touchdown! 73 yards! Here is Khalil Herbert. Look at the speed! The shot of the tackle and a touchdown! Go Bears!
It's time for the Bears Nation podcast. With your hosts, Kevin Lapka.
I still think he can be serviceable enough there at left tackle. That's an upgrade. Is that an upgrade over Charles Leno? You at least can't say it's a downgrade.
And Jake Hassan.
They're going to get murdered out there. It's bad. Throw me through the wood chipper. I'd rather take that fate over whatever meets the Bears starting quarterback week 1.
Shall we play a game?
Strap it in. It's the Bears Nation podcast. Let's get it.
Bears Nation podcast. Yeah. Jeez, that was unbelievable. Ernie Scatton, what a guy. That was incredible. You absolutely love to see it. August 25th, Bears Nation podcast. It is after preseason week 2. It is Wednesday. For some reason, I've had August 25th, the date. Like, I feel like I've read it a million times. I don't know why. Super weird. Makes no goddamn sense. But anyway, I digress. Further programming note. Dude, Trader Joe, if you're watching this, the mini ice cream cones at Trader Joe's, unbelievable. So if Trader Joe is watching this or listening to this, sponsor us. Let's do it. Let's cook, baby. All right. On to stuff you guys actually care about. Bears Nation podcast. And Justin Fields is your week 3 preseason starter. How about it? I'm ready for Kevin to be so incredibly mad on this episode. Justin Fields is your week 3 preseason starter. The last preseason game generally. So remember, this is not a normal preseason. Normally, third preseason game, you'd see most of the starters for the most amount of time. Not the case. All of the starters are sitting. Justin Fields is starting the game, which cements Andy Dalton as your week 1 starter on Sunday Night Football against the Los Angeles Rams.
Woo! I mean, you're excited? You're excited?
No,
okay.
That was the most. No, of course not.
You won. You were right. All right. I give you all the kudos. I was right last year about the quarterback situation in the offseason. Jake takes the crown for 2021. Hopefully we don't have to have this debate for another 15 years. Okay. That would be nice. But knowing the Bears franchise, I'm not going to lock anything in. But I'm going to rant because this is goddamn ridiculous right here, man. I mean, for oh my God, after everything, we don't even, there's not even, they don't even play in preseason game 3. Was this ever even a competition? Because honestly, looking back at it, I don't even know if it was, Jake. I don't even know what it was. And the reason that this makes me so upset is you tell me why. Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. Oh, they can all play with the ones. They can all go out and play with the starters.
We know why Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson played with the ones.
Sure.
Because there was no one else in the building.
But yeah, that's true. But it's just the stupidest reasoning in the world that I know I hope some ones will play with Justin Fields. If he doesn't play behind the starting offensive line in preseason game 3, this is going to be even more heated next Wednesday.
I think he's going to get go ahead. I'm going to let you finish your rant before I address.
He has to get at least one series with Mustafa, Whitehair, Daniels, Peters, and Ifedi. He has to get one. And if he doesn't get one, if I'm Justin Fields, I'm ripping Matt Nagy's head off because I'm saying, first of all, what the hell? I'm not getting a fair shake. I'm looking at San Francisco where Jimmy Garoppolo is a better option than Andy Dalton, and Trey Lance is getting all the opportunities he can get with the ones. And then I'm looking at New England, and I'm seeing Mac Jones, who's significantly less capable than Justin Fields, and Cam Newton's better than Andy Dalton, and he's getting reps with the ones. But Justin Fields is not allowed. He's prohibited from taking any reps with Allen Robinson or with the starting offensive line, and then he goes out there in quarter 3 with guys who will be cut from the team a week from now and nearly gets decapitated. If I'm Justin Fields, I'm livid. And I know he went on the mic and he said, "Oh, dude, this is the plan. And I'm going to trust Nagy." Dude, I'm pissed off if I'm Justin Fields because it makes no goddamn sense. And there's people who are going to say, "Well, Nagy promised Dalton the starting job in April before the draft, and now he's sticking to his word." He's sticking to his word, right? Good man, sticking to his word. Since when do promises freaking matter in the NFL? This is the goddamn NFL we're talking about. A damn pinky promise that happened in Matt Nagy's office in March should mean nothing. This is about winning football games and doing what's best for your franchise. This is a cutthroat league, Jake. We know this. They're treating it like it's kindergarten. I'm gonna hold you to the pinky promise I made. I mean, come on. Like it's ridiculous. I mean, the fact, I think it aggravates me the most, the fact that in preseason game 2, which we're going to dissect further, he did not get one series with the starting offense. Not one, Jake. Does that anger you like it angers me?
I mean, it doesn't anger me per se, but so a couple things, as I generally want to address things that Kevin says in his opening rant on most episodes. I wouldn't count on getting the full offensive line. You're going to get Peters and you're going to get Fetty for sure, just because the pure fact they need the reps, and that is a dire need for them to have the reps and in-game reps. So you can't just throw them in against the Rams. That's not going to happen. So you'll see those two a little bit at least for sure. I imagine you'll see Daniels because he also is coming off an injury. Yeah. He only got, the last preseason game was his only one. So I'm sure he'll get some reps too. I don't think there'll be a lot. As for Whitehair and Mustafa, that could go either way. I'm not sure. I'm not sure you will. I'm not as confident in that, but I think you could get 3 out of 5. I mean, I think that's something. You get 60% of the line. As far as Justin Fields ripping Matt Nagy's head off and being upset, that's not going to happen. Zero chance. No,
obviously.
Negative 4% chance of that happening. He already has been saying, I think the fans should cheer Andy. I think they should support whoever's out there. I trusted Matt Nagy's plan. Whatever it is what it is, so on and so forth. But also, if you're Justin Fields, there is no reason for you to go put your neck out there, say, I need to be out there. I can be. All you have to do, because we know sooner rather than later, Andy Dalton is not going to play up to snuff. He's not going to play up to scratch, and Justin Fields is going to go in that game. So if you're Justin Fields, you sit there, you take it easy, you take it slow, you hold that clipboard until it might be the second half of the opening night. But more than likely, because if they don't bench Andy Dalton during the game in week 1, the week 2 Andy Dalton revenge game versus the Bengals headlines are going to write themselves. So they're definitely going to give him that one. You're Justin Fields. You wait till week 3. You sit there, you say, all right, I'll wait till week 3 against a beatable Browns team. I'll sit there and I'll wait for my number to be called. And I know that as soon as I step on that field, I'm going to feel the players get behind me, the fans get behind me. I'm just going to feel that momentum. So I'll sit here, I'll wait, I'll let the pressure build for them to put me out into that game rather than say, I need to be the guy and put the pressure on myself and make statements when people already want you out there. Let them do the talking for you. You can sit there and say all the right things so that you keep, peace within the locker room. And there you go. You're just Fields. You don't have to do a damn thing.
Peace in the locker room. See, this is where I misunderstood. Is peace in the locker room. If I'm a player and I'm not Justin Fields or Andy Dalton, I'm looking at this situation like, what the hell? Like, it's clearly evident what's best for the football team.
I'm sure there's some Andy guys.
No one, I guarantee you, no one in that locker room has animosity towards Andy Dalton. They have no reason to have. He's a great guy, great teammate. But
I'm sure there are guys who are like, all right, well, Andy Dalton is the veteran. Let's give him I guarantee you that there are guys, especially like old school veteran guys, like a Jason Peters, who are like, all right, yeah, let's let the kid sit for a little bit. I guarantee, that's the more likely. I don't want to make any guarantees because we're not in that locker room, but there's definitely Andy guys in there. Now, I don't know what the split is. It could be 90-10 Justin Fields, but I'm sure there are some Andy Dalton supporters in that locker room saying, yeah, at least give him a shot. He's the veteran. He deserves that right. So that's all I'm saying there.
Yeah, you may be right. And I don't think there's an actual argument going on in the locker room that they're, pulling at each other about who should be the starter. They're probably not having those conversations. But one other thing that Matt Nagy said that really bothered me was, we have to see him in the regular season. We have to see him play. Do we? What are you talking about? What do you mean? This guy's played in the league for what, 12, 13 years? I don't even know. I mean, he hasn't had a winning season in 3 years. What is there to see? What do we owe Andy Dalton? This isn't a player who's been with the franchise for 11 years. This is one of his last years. He's done so much for the organization, for the city. We owe it to him to give him one last shot before the new rookie quarterback takes over.
It's not Jay Cutler.
It's not Jay Cutler. It's not this situation. Like, I just don't understand what allegiance there is, because that seems to be all it is. Like, I think Matt Nagy at this point, recognizes that Justin Fields is the better quarterback, that Justin Fields does a heck of a lot more for his offense and what he wants to do than Andy Dalton does. And that was evident in both games. Although Matt Nagy's play calling wasn't great in preseason game 2, it's clearly evident that you can do more with Justin Fields. But all of those things, and I think, again, like the offensive line thing, like it's we still have to see. And that's why I want to see him play behind the offensive line is, if you're really worried about that, let's not have that conversation. Let's just see what happens on Saturday against the Titans. Let's see if he, holds up with that first unit offensive line. That's why I want to see that. But other than that, like, it's really just this blind allegiance that is causing this naming of Andy Dalton to be the starter. And that's what's so frustrating is, like, we're not making football decisions here. We're not making smart team decisions here. I mean, you can maybe not even, I've never, this for the past 4 months, I've never been on the argument that you're making a future decision about, Justin Fields' future career trajectory because he's not starting week 1. But obviously I'm going to squash that by saying if Andy Dalton gets removed in the first half of the game 1, then what the hell are we even doing? Just start him right away. So does that make any sense to you? What do we owe to Andy freaking Dalton? Why do we have to see him? The Niners don't have to see Jimmy Garoppolo. They know what his limitations are. They're ready to use their guy who's going to make them a better team. Why? Oh, I know why, Jake. I know why. and why are the Patriots doing it? Because Bill Belichick and Kyle Shanahan are a heck of a lot smarter than Matt Nagy. And they're not stupid, and they're not idiots, and they don't make stupid promises to quarterbacks. They know that this is the National Football League, and the guy who's the better player is going to play, and the guy who's going to help your team win is going to play. They understand that. Matt Nagy doesn't. That's the fundamental difference, honestly.
No, I mean, and here's the thing, though. I would venture to say that this isn't a Matt Nagy decision as far as that pinky promise goes, as far as that, hey, that, wink, wink, handshake deal goes. Like this, we know how this ownership runs. We know how that big fat stooge Ted Phillips runs things. It could be them saying, hey, leaning on Matt Nagy saying, hey, you got to start Andy Dalton.
And what? Why?
Because, like you said, they made some stupid pinky promise, keep their word type of deal where they're like, all right, we're going to start you week 1. And now that, this reeks of Ted Phillips to me, reeks of him being like, yeah, well, we made a promise to Andy. So I don't know why I just gave Ted Phillips a Southern accent, but we made a promise to Andy. So we told him he was going to be our week 1 starting quarterback. And that's why we named him QB1. And, so we're going to give him that opportunity, and we have to respect that. And we have to put, our word to it. We can't go back on our word, blah, 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 blah. Stuff it, Ted Phillips. Like it just reeks of him.
But that's it does. Sure.
It is embarrassing. No, you're right. It's embarrassing.
Exactly. It's embarrassing at any level, whether it's Ted Phillips, George McCaskey, whether it's, whoever it may be. It's embarrassing that this is actually how the franchise operates, because I don't think anyone can sit here with a straight face and tell you that Andy Dalton's the best option for this team and Andy Dalton's the best option for week 1 against the Rams. Not one person can tell you that. So obviously there's other little things going on that are dictating this decision. And it's not football related. And that's what's frustrating. That's what's frustrating is, Bears fans, every fan wants to see their team win. Every fan wants to see, obviously, their star quarterback go out there. And in certain situations, it's not the right time because the team isn't good enough. The team, is just not prepared. The quarterback's not prepared. But we've already talked about the fact that this team can win football games against any team in the league on any given Sunday. We saw that last year. They beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday night. Sure, they lose to some bad teams, but they beat some good teams too. It's frustrating. And the other thing too was what the report said was they're going to wait until Andy Dalton starts to lose. When Andy Dalton starts to lose is when Justin Fields goes in. So we've already established that they are sacrificing losses for what? They're sacrificing losses just to owe something to Andy Dalton. You're sacrificing, the value of your team. And that's, again, if players understand that, I'm saying, what the actual hell are you doing? I'm busting my ass every day at practice. I put my body on the line every single Sunday, and I'm just sacrificing that for Andy Dalton to throw 3 interceptions and 112 yards. It's
112 yards.
It's the most random
so
number,
specific.
but like now that I think about it, like that's a perfect number for Sunday night against the Rams. 112. I love that number.
That's so
112.
specific.
Lock it in.
No,
Lock
but you're
it
right.
in.
And even if putting Fields in the game in the second half is on the table, I mean, like I said this last week, it's going to be so Bears for them to be down 2 scores or 17 points, 3 scores or something. And they're going to be down. They're going to be down like 17 points going into the half. They're going to come out. Justin Fields is going to lead them all the way back, and it's going to be a 2-point conversion that they just miss, and that's how they're going to lose. Hopefully, if that's what happens, that's the only loss that we have to endure from the Andy Dalton experiment, and then we can move on with our lives. More than likely, like I said, you're going to lose that Rams game, and then the Andy Dalton revenge game versus Cincinnati headlines are going to write themselves, and they're going to say some crap like, well, we want to give Andy a chance to redeem himself after last week. God, this would be so many. He knows he didn't play good enough. We know he didn't play good enough, but we're going to go and we're going to face Cincinnati, his old team. There's some blood there, and Andy wants to play well. He's driven to play well this week and bounce back and get our team a win. So Matt Nagy, I can hear it in my head now, and we're going to come on this podcast, and we are going to just rip our damn hair out over that clip because we're going to play it, and we're going to get so mad, and then we're going to go into week 2 with Andy Dalton, and then he's probably going to win that game too because Joe Burrow's working his way back slowly, and Cincinnati's just not a good team. And then we're going to get a 3rd week of Andy Dalton, and finally, probably against the Browns is when it changes. Probably, maybe, who knows? I might be wrong there too. Nobody knows. That's the thing. They just keep saying. Remember a couple weeks ago we were saying, well, we haven't heard them commit to Andy Dalton for a couple weeks. It's back, and it sucks.
Yeah, and as you talk about like these games coming up and like what may happen, the standard has to be extreme. Like the bar has to be the lowest it could possibly, or the highest it could possibly. Well, what am I trying? Because I'm trying to know what you're going to say. Okay, listen. You go back to last year, right? Mitch Trubisky wins 2 games. They're down at the half in week 3. He gets pulled. I want the same treatment to Andy Dalton. I want the same exact treatment. I don't care if you win the first 2 games. If you start to falter in week 3, you're gone. Get out of here, because that's the same exact way that Mitch Trubisky was treated last year. It's the same exact situation. And that standard has to be the same. It has to be exactly the same. And I don't know why it wouldn't, quite frankly, but for some reason I do have this, I don't want to believe that this is the case, but I do have this weird fear that Matt Nagy's far more committed to Andy Dalton and will trudge through the mud for him even if he starts to play poorly. I'm afraid of that scenario after him doubling down and him obviously being stupid and blind enough to continue to say Andy Dalton's the best option for this team. So Bubba 182 says, don't worry about Dalton. He will be on the IL by week 4. I mean, it's quite possible. I mean, that is also another situation that you never ever want to happen, but Andy Dalton goes down, Justin Fields comes in, the rest is history. That's why I'm to Justin Herbert and Tyrod Taylor in LA last year. Like, that's a great comparison to make. Was the Chargers were dumb, I guess, in hindsight, for starting Tyrod Taylor week 1.
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't that. Not every day do you have a trainer puncture your starting quarterback's lung. That doesn't. Not every day does that happen. Not even every year does that happen. Not every 5 years, 10 years does that happen.
That was so weird.
That was just blatant mismanagement by the Chargers. But to your point about Matt Nagy being more committed to Dalton, I want to go back to this reeks of Ted Phillips and his fingerprints being all over it and the upper management. So if it's truly not a Matt Nagy decision and he's starting Dalton because he's getting pressure from up top to do that, which who knows? That's speculation on our part, on my part specifically, but maybe, and we know Matt Nagy, the ship had sailed on Mitch Trubisky by the time the first snap of week 1 had been taken last year. The ship had, Matt Nagy was out on Mitch Trubisky. He begrudgingly put him in because the narrative was there for him to have a bounce back and break out and finally become the quarterback we thought, and he was the more athletic guy, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And then the first chance he got, Matt Nagy pulled him. So now, hopefully, maybe Matt Nagy's like, all right, I'm being pressured to start Dalton, blah, blah, I'm going to start him. And then first mistake, bang, same thing. He's gone. Maybe that happens. Maybe we see Justin Fields in the first quarter of week 1. I don't know. It's just such a weird situation because you're right. Justin Fields is clearly the better option here. and we're not seeing him right away because of whatever behind the scenes stuff is going on. But we don't know how much influence Matt Nagy has over this situation. We don't know how much he doesn't. Right. We don't know who has their hands in this or where. So that's also an influence. If this is you want to believe that Nagy knows Justin is the guy, but I mean, we've seen. I don't know. We've seen things and poor decisions like that be made before. So
yeah, and look, if in an alternate universe where this was a football decision, he does have influence, and the place where he has influence is giving your damn rookie quarterback an opportunity to see what he can do in live game action with the starting offensive line and with players like even a Jameer Byrd, who wasn't even in the game. Like, that's a guy who's not even really on the first team offense, he's on the second team offense. I don't think he saw a snap at Justin Fields. Even maybe a Darnell Mooney for a few plays or something, get and some offensive linemen, and you look back at preseason game, and the opportunity was there. Andy Dalton throws a 73-yard touchdown to Rodney Adams. Great throw, but a better catch by Rodney Adams off the helmet of the defender, runs the rest of the way for a 73-yard touchdown. Unbelievable play. At that moment, I said, okay, sit him down. Good. He had some terrible drives. He had one good drive. That's fine. That's enough. You have 8 minutes now left in the second quarter to see what Justin can do against not only with the Bears, first and second stringers, but also against the Bills, second string defense and a few first stringers on defense. See what he can do against a good defense as well. But they trot right back out Andy Dalton, and for what? I mean, they didn't score. I think they punted it away, and then Andy Dalton threw a pick to end the half. So for what? I mean, you didn't even give him a chance. You didn't even give it an opportunity. And again, I don't know if anything would have changed if he played those final 8 minutes of the second quarter with the starting offensive line. But there were people who were worried after last game because they said, he didn't look that good because the offensive line was crumbling and there was questions. Now, he didn't look as good as preseason game one. Well, you have to be fair. He didn't get the fair shake with the right players. He's throwing to guys who are dropping balls every single play. He's getting decapitated off the edge because no one knows what the hell is going on. Guys are missing blocks. He's running for his life. It just was illogical to me, and that frustrated me that he did not get those opportunities because, again, like I said, I'll keep coming back to this. Every other quarterback and every other team who's a rookie is getting those opportunities. And tell me why on God's green earth Justin Fields should not get those opportunities as well. So did that in itself, do you think that would have made a difference, honestly, if he did play and you see what he was capable of with those players, those first and second stringers, would that have made a difference?
It would have had to be like an act of God performance from Justin Fields in those 8 minutes. Like, he would have had to score 2-3 touchdowns and been 15 for 15 on passing, which, I mean, who's to say that wouldn't have happened, obviously, but it would have had to have been an astounding performance because they did not waste any time saying that Justin Fields was starting week 3 and basically naming Andy Dalton the week 1 starter after the game. It's Wednesday. This came out, Monday? The next day? They wasted no time. It's like they were, and I've been saying this all offseason, they knew this was going to be it. Like, they've been slow playing it and, kind of dragging us along, but I always thought it was going to be Andy Dalton because of this weird commitment and the stubbornness to starting him. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously Justin Fields is probably going to play well in this upcoming game to finalize the preseason before we head into the regular season. But I mean, it is what it is at this point. I mean, here we are with Andy Dalton. And to answer Bubba's question, would you rather have Rosen or Dalton? Dalton. I would rather have Dalton 10 times out of 10. To quote Stephen A. Smith, Josh Rosen, this dude can't play. He's a bona fide scrub. This dude cannot play. He's been cut a billion times from a billion practice squads. That doesn't happen in the NFL for a young quarterback if you can play at least a little bit. This dude cannot play. He stinks out loud. This man just is not an NFL quarterback. So I would absolutely take the crippled, broken down body of the ghost of Andy Dalton because Josh Rosen, clearly there is something there that man cannot stick on an NFL roster, even on a practice squad. So I would not touch Josh Rosen with a 20-foot long stick. So that is my answer to that question.
I'll probably agree with you. I just don't know. Bubba 182 on Twitch chat. If you guys are listening to this in the podcast, come join us on Twitch next week, live at 8 p.m. Central Time. But anyway, where the hell did Josh Rosen come from? Why is he?
Because he just got cut by the 49ers like 3 days ago. For the billionth time in his career.
Right, okay. There you go. I just thought that was funny. But I don't look here. You know what? I'm the optimist, right? Let me spit some optimism and let's spin this positive. I'm going to give you a scenario here, a wonderful scenario. It's going to happen, Jake. It's going to happen, right? Justin Fields is going to go out week 3 against the Titans. For some reason, Andy Dalton doesn't play, but some of the starters do. Darnell Mooney gets out there.
Preseason week 3.
Preseason week 3. The rest of the offensive line gets out there. Maybe Cole Kmet gets some time. Jimmy Graham was out there last week. Maybe he comes out. Justin Fields lights it up for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns and maybe a rushing touchdown too.
Kevin, there's nothing he can do to win the job. And
Matt Nagy says, and someone hits Matt Nagy with a hammer out of his senses. He does like one of those little animated cartoon shakes where he's like, he comes into his senses. And the night before Sunday night, which would be Saturday night, he names Justin Fields a starter. Look, there's 0% chance this happens, Jay, but because of my reputation on this show, I had to give that for the fans who are like me, who want to have a reason to be happy in this dark and cruel world. So that is my.
You can be happy. You still have Justin Fields is still on this team. You're still gonna see him this year. You can be happy. It's just you're not. Yes. You're gonna be very frustrated for a couple weeks. That's all. And we're used to that. As Bears fans. Well, you're a Bears fan, so you're used to it anyway. So let's just stop acting like, you're going to not have to deal with it after a couple weeks. You just have to get through a couple more weeks, and then you are golden, probably. Because even if in your cartoon fantasy scenario that Matt Nagy is, gets his head cracked open and inside is sprinkled a little Justin Fields magic, what's going to happen is Ted Phillips is going to sneak down into his office while he's sleeping and stick an HVAC in his ear and suck those thoughts right out of his brain. Like, it's just even like there's no conceivable or not even non-conceivable scenario where Justin Fields starts week 1. It's over. It's signed, sealed, delivered. There's no shot. It's not going to happen. So let's just admit and come to terms with the fact that we have to see Andy Dalton for at least 1 week, probably multiple. It's going to happen. We're Bears fans. We're going to suffer. Hey, that's what the extra week in the season is for. It balances out the week of Andy Dalton. There we go. It's perfectly fine. Everything's going to be fine. I promise you. Yes, it sucks sacrificing losses for Andy Dalton to start, but teams sacrifice losses for stupid reasons every single year. We sacrificed multiple wins probably to play Nick Foles last year. It happens. Whatever. We're used to it. It's going to happen for 3 to 4 weeks. Then once October rolls around, we're going to be talking about how we can't wait for Justin Fields' first start. It'll be fine. We're all going to get this. Hey, we're all going to get through this together. It's going to be fine. All of us, me, Kevin, everyone, we're going to come together. We're just going to be there for each other. And we're just going to look ahead to October when Justin Fields finally comes on as the starter. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be a true chef's kiss moment. And then we can get on with our lives. And we don't have to ever think about Andy Dalton starting in a Bears uniform ever again. And that's going to be perfectly fine. And it's okay. And it's okay. That's okay that it's going to happen. Okay?
Wow. You're a great therapist. That was well done. Anyway. I feel 1,000 times better now. I'm a changed man.
Now let's actually talk about preseason week 2 because, oh, boy, did that defense stink.
Oh, well,
when you
did the defense stink or Jake?
What?
Yes. Did the defense stink or is Mitch Trubisky the truth?
No. So when you allow Mitch Trubisky to come out here and throw for over 200 yards and a touchdown on you just absolutely make you look foolish, it's bad. It's real bad. Nobody could tackle. Nobody could get after the ball. True. It looked really, really bad. I mean, the tackling, which we talked about all last year, about how Eddie Jackson, again, what is this man afraid of? You are a professional football player in the NFL. Why are you afraid of coming into contact with another human being on the football field? Why? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But it wasn't even him. It was multiple players in the secondary. Kendall Wilder, too, had a missed tackle. Multiple people on the defensive line. It does not make any sense. Oh, brother, does he stink. And, I mean, it's preseason. they're still going to be fine. They're still going to be a top 10 defense. But Jesus, guys, against Mitch Trubisky, really? Of all guys to let dice you up like that?
Why did I know it was going to happen? Why did I have that feeling in the back of my mind that it was going to happen?
Baby. Narrative always plays.
I mean, oh God. It was not surprising. It hurt, and it was like a dagger to the heart to see that, but I wasn't really surprised. But yeah, I mean, like aside from it just kind of being like a funny narrative, it was a little bit concerning. Like I know you take preseason for what it is, but that was a starting defense with I think 8 out of the 11 starters. Maybe Roquan Smith was not there. Daniel Trevathan was not there, and I don't know who else. I think there was maybe one other. I don't know if Gibson was there or not. But anyway, what's your full starting defense?
I guess that depends if you count Desmond Trufant as a starter.
Trufant as well. Yes, Trufant as well. True. And that's a different conversation. We're going to talk about Kendall Wilder, who I did not think looked good at all and kind of scared me. But it was kind of typical Bears defense at the start of a game under Matt Nagy sometimes. Like the past years at least, like excluding 2018. Like they have come out flat in a number of games. Like first drive is extremely slow. Guys aren't ready to play. Guys are flat. They're not tackling. They're not getting after the ball. And that's what was concerning to me is that is a common theme under Matt Nagy, and that is a common trend, and that cannot be the case. You have to start the game up with intensity. You have to start the game off with fire. But the other thing to add to that was, the first few drives of that game, I think they punted, 3 times in a row? They went punt, punt, and fumble. They went punt, punt, fumble in the first 13 minutes of the game. So punt, punt, fumble in the first 13 minutes. This is the same story, Jake, from the past 2 years. If you're the defense, you're saying, what the hell? I just got back to the sideline. Andy Dalton goes 3 now, and I'm back on the field again. And now it's a preseason game in August where it's 93 degrees. You're hot as hell. You're not going to be excited to run back out on the field. You're not going to be excited to put your body on the line in a preseason game when it's that hot, when your offense isn't doing anything for you. And this is why, to go back to the offense, it's the same old shit. It's the same old shit. Like we know in the past few years, a good offense can help make a great defense. Like we know this, and we have every reason to believe that. And that was evident again in preseason game 2. So that's what frustrated me the most. Like those singular plays, like the Robert Quinn, I think the play you were referencing with Eddie Jackson was the Robert Quinn missed tackle. Devin Singletary bounces out to the outside and gets past Eddie Jackson for the touchdown. That's probably the primary play you were thinking about, right? When you think about Eddie Jackson's. To be fair on that, it was kind of weird. Singletary broke the tackle from Robert Quinn, and then someone kind of nudged him, like tried to tackle Singletary, push him to the outside, and kind of put him out of Eddie Jackson's reach. So I'm not going to put that entirely on Eddie Jackson, but that's a play that should not have resulted in a touchdown, and there are plenty of plays like that. I mean, it was just like Mitchell Trubisky was not throwing the ball deep. He wasn't going deep. He wasn't even in play action. He was sitting in the pocket, throwing to wide open receivers in the middle of the field. Every single time, there wasn't a man within 5 yards of the receiver. So that was concerning, but again, to kind of ease the pain and kind of, take it back a step. You were missing, I would say, I don't know if you can say this for sure, but one of, if not the best player on the defense, and Roquan Smith, the guy who kind of is the most, let's say the most important piece, I would say, of a defense. You were missing that player, so I'm not going to, go too crazy about the defense, but it was hard not to be concerned. And hey, and one more thing, good for Mitch Trubisky, honestly, good for him. He deserved that. When he has an offensive genius like Brian Daboll, look what happens. So that's all I'll say. So
well, that's the thing that you have to consider. And the comment we got is that he got, coaching as well. But the thing is, like, Sean McDermott and Gable, they're offensive geniuses. Like, that's their thing. They made Josh Allen a superstar quarterback. So, that
was supposed to be Matt Nagy's thing, though. That's all I'll say. That was supposed to be his thing.
That's fair. That is fair. But I mean, here's the thing, and we mentioned it, like, take preseason at face value, but it's just when you can't tackle, and maybe it's just that they're uninterested, or maybe it's just they don't want to get hurt, and because they're usually not playing in the preseason.
Right.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess, who knows? Week 1 against LA, maybe they'll be out there and they'll just be putting guys into the dirt, which would be amazing. That would be great. But I mean, I don't know. It's not great. I do want to mention a name that you did bring up, Kendall Wilder and Duke Shelley as well. With Trufant out, he was away for personal reasons. Who are you giving the edge to out of – I mean, is Wilder the guy? Is Wilder the slot guy? I'm assuming that Trufant takes the other opposite corner spot when he gets
CB1,
back?
Yeah, CB1, Jalen Johnson, CB2, Desmond Trufant. I think CB3 should be Artie Burns, honestly. I mean, I don't think either of those guys have showed me a reason. Artie Burns played well in this game. He had 2 pass deflections. He was kind of all over the place. Yeah, was he playing against lesser receivers? Sure, you can make that argument. But that to me is wide open. Like, there is no solidified answer to that question right now, and there shouldn't be, because Kendall Wilder did not play well. He did not play well at all. He was not, tied to the hip of the man he was covering, or even when he was in zone coverage, he wasn't in the right spots. It felt like Duke Shelley didn't impress me a ton. And the guy that we talked about a little bit, and this talk has faded, Thomas Graham Jr. I wish he was getting more time there with the ones. I think he made a play. He had a PD, pass deflection later in the game too. But I mean, why not Artie Burns? Why not Thomas Graham Jr.? I mean, like, honestly, I don't think that we have a solidified answer at CB3 right now. And if we don't have a solidified answer, let's see what Artie Burns and Thomas Graham can do, because I was not at all impressed by Kendall Wilder in this game. But it was one game he played okay in preseason game 1, so we'll give him another shot. But what's your answer to that question?
Because I actually have only read good things about Artie Burns. So, and he is, a former first round pick. So, yeah, I guess because I'm kind of inclined to give it to Vildor too, because he did play well last year and he kind of earned it, I guess would be the word for it. But yeah, I guess I'd go Burns. My bold prediction before the season was that it'd be Graham, and that has been absolutely not true.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but that could change. I think that's one of those things where you start to see if that position it continues to kind of be in rotation and they're just throwing guys in there week by week, which could be possible. He will give it a shot. And, I think this is going to be a big game for him. Preseason game 3. What can he do? He'll get a lot of time. If he shows out, that clock kind of starts to move a little bit, and he might, move up to week 4 or 5 or 6 or something if he gets that opportunity, if a guy goes down or something. So I wouldn't close the door on that.
Well, and here's the thing with Desmond Trufant's history, he probably, is going to get that chance sooner rather than later. Anything else on the defense that worries you or that you noticed that stood out?
No, I don't think anything else worries me really. I'm not going to go that deep into it. Nothing else really from that first team defense was positive though. I can't really, like, Alec Ogletree didn't really have the greatest performance, wasn't a repeat of preseason week 1. The pass rush wasn't really getting after. I think that's what bothered me a little bit. The pass rush wasn't really getting after the quarterback, even with guys like Bilal Nichols. I think Akeem Hicks played a little bit.
Yeah.
Can't remember exactly. I think Khalil Mack played a snap or 2 or something. That was frustrating to not see them get after the quarterback. That's a good offensive line in Buffalo, but still, that's the namesake of the Bears defense, is you're going to get after the quarterback. But other than that, no, there's not too much else to take away from me. So,
all right, well then let's switch to the offense. Rodney Adams. I mean, he's
roster lock.
Is he your third receiver? He has to be, right?
I guess. I mean, sure.
Right? I don't think there's anyone else.
No. I mean, Marquise Goodwin, I think, is your technical third receiver. Like, if you were to go down the depth chart, you would see it that be the case. But Rodney Adams, like, again, I spoke about this earlier. Marquise Goodwin isn't really a wide receiver 3. More of he is as a gadget tool who's going to come in different, positions, different times. So at this very moment, if you're talking about like pure wide receiver 3 is a guy who's going to be consistent at that spot, sure, it's Rodney Adams. I have no reason to believe it's Riley Ridley. I have no reason to believe it's Javon Williams. I have no reason to believe it's anybody else, because Damiere Byrd falls under that Marquise Goodwin category as well. It is Rodney Adams. He has showed out in not only preseason game 2, but preseason game 1 as well. Guy can play, man. He can play. He's going to get his shot. So sure, lock that in. He's going to make the roster for sure. I mean, you can bet $1 million on that.
Well, so now the question becomes who goes, because Javon Williams or Riley Ridley then are on the chopping block.
Both of them. They both should be gone.
You think they're both gone?
I think they're both gone. I mean, quite frankly, I don't know if they both can be gone. I don't know if they would only. I'm trying to think of who they would keep. If it was Robinson, Mooney, Adams, Byrd, Goodwin, they would need to keep one more. I don't know if Chris Lacey's done enough. I don't know if any of those other guys have done enough. So of those two, it would have to be Ridley. But quite frankly, Ridley hasn't looked that great in the preseason games either. He hasn't excited me. He excited me a little bit after week 1. And after the stories we were hearing, we talked about it a few weeks ago about he has a great connection with Justin Fields. Haven't seen it in gameplay. Need to see it. We said, look, we need to see it in the game. It doesn't matter about what happens in practice for him. This is his, third, fourth, I can't even remember, because no one knows, third, fourth year in the league now. He needs to prove it now on game tape against second and third stringers that he can do it. He hasn't. So at this moment, sure, Ridley over Wims, but I would not be surprised if they both got cut. I wouldn't.
The absolute non-attention you're giving to friend of the program, Dave Newsome. So looking at the ethics projections for the team.
Correct.
Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Marquise Goodwin, Damiere Byrd, Rodney Adams, Daz Newsome as the last two.
Yes.
So, I mean, if that's how it shakes out, I'm honestly kind of rooting for that. I've said this a long time. Javon Williams, I can't believe his key card worked for the building after that game against the Saints. It was so dumb that he's even been on the roster this long. I guess whatever, fine, you drafted him, give him another shot. Riley Ridley has given you zilch, absolutely nothing. He got his one compliment in training camp like I predicted, and that was it.
That's it.
So, I mean, Rodney Adams, Daz Newsome, come on down. That wide receiver room is a little concerning, but, I mean, if you could get anything out of Goodwin and Byrd, anything from the bottom four guys is really kind of be gravy because, I mean, you know what you're getting out of Robinson and Newsome and not Newsome and Mooney, and the other four are question marks. I mean, is Goodwin going to stay healthy? What are Adams and Newsome? You haven't seen anything out of them. Obviously, we're really high on our guy Daz, but I mean, the rest of these guys you don't really know, and that kind of lends us back to the conversation of Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet are going to be, you're basically 3 and 4 receivers because you know at least they're known. At least Jimmy Graham, you know what you're getting. At least Cole Kmet, he can catch the ball and run with it, and you know that you want to make him a focal point at some point. But which honestly, I'm kind of okay with that. I like
with your tight end being integrated
with your
like
two tight ends being your 3 and 4 receivers.
What do you think Kansas City does?
Now, here's the thing: if Darnell Mooney isn't what we think he's going to be,
he will.
Then you're kind of in trouble. Well, I think he will be too. I completely believe he will. But if he's not, and he has a sophomore slump, then you're kind of in trouble. If Darnell Mooney plays more like a 4 than a 2, then you're getting into some dicey areas here. So that is a little bit of a concern. But like you said, I think Mooney, we know what we're going to get. And also you're eventually, you hope, going to get Tariq Cohen back at some point.
Right. That's
and
true.
if Damian Williams is going to be there as kind of that receiver type back. And also, we've been talking about it all day, Justin Fields coming into the team. We forget Justin Fields' guy, Jesse James, who apparently is a superstar when Justin Fields is playing.
Word.
So, you could have 3 legitimate tight ends out there.
Yeah, you could. And like I referenced, like Kansas City, San Francisco, Oakland does it. There's nothing like those guys are the best tight ends in the league, and that's why they're integrated in that way, Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller. But there's nothing wrong with that in targeting your tight end a lot because most of the times the tight end has one of the biggest mismatches on the field. So I'm not wrong with that. I'm not upset with that. I just don't know if Cole Kmet's ready to be that guy yet. I mean, that is still he very well could be. I'm not saying he's going to be in that upper echelon, but he very well could take that leap to being a top 12-ish tight end. We just haven't seen it yet because he hasn't played really in training camp. But the other thing I forgot that I didn't bring up Daz, but I think the reason why I did that is because like at this very moment, August 25th, it really kind of feels like he's getting the Riley Ridley treatment, quite frankly. Yeah. I mean, and we have heard nothing. He has not been getting the reps in preseason games. It doesn't seem like he's been getting the reps in training camp too much. And that's concerning. Like not like it's his fault. It's just he's not getting opportunities. And it's again, what are you doing? I mean, after we thought that was over after last year with Darnell Mooney bursting out on the scene as a 5th rounder, turning into a phenomenal receiver in year 1 in that rookie season. We thought Daz Newsome was going to be the same way, have an impact year 1. And we kind of banked on that when we evaluated the wide receiver room. That's not there. And now I'm starting to think, once Justin Fields comes in, you might need another weapon. And there's trade rumors or there's trade proposals going around about, Odell Beckham for Akeem Hicks, those types of things. What kind of trades are we looking at there? I wouldn't hate it, Jake. I'm not saying that's going to happen. It's definitely not going to happen. I think Bleacher Report put that out and was just like, this is something that's cool. And it's going to start comments and everyone's like, okay. And they got the engagement that they wanted. This is how the sports media world works.
That's such a gross trade.
It's not that gross. I would take that trade.
So gross.
I think I'd take that trade if it was.
Did you not listen to a word that Josh Woods said when he was on the show a couple weeks ago? Did you not listen to anything that he said about Akeem Hicks being, the main guy on this defense and being the leader and the heart and soul? And we've heard for years how Akeem Hicks is the heartbeat. Akeem Hicks' agent a couple weeks ago just said that he wants to retire a Bear. Like, you take Akeem Hicks off this team, this defense gets significantly worse. Like, go back and watch the games that Akeem Hicks was out over the last 2 years. It's terrible. Against the game that he was out against Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, where he had to exit the game because of injury, Kirk Cousins defense was bad. It was terrible. It was so bad. Like, Odell Beckham Jr., fine. He's a phenomenal raw talent. He's a good storyline. But what has that guy done over the last 3 years that makes you think, yeah, that's what I want to give up the heart, soul, and motor of my defense for? When you think your defense is top 10. No. Blech. Gross. Goodbye. Blech. Blech.
I don't know. 2,000-yard receiving seasons the last 3 years. Only 13 total touchdowns, but I don't know.
He didn't play last year.
He played 3 games, had 3 touchdowns, or he played a little bit more than that. He had 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. Look, that trade's not going to happen, so let's stop talking about it. But it just popped in my mind, like, yeah, they could use another weapon. And you look at the age, 28 years old, 31 years old for Akeem Hicks. I don't know. It's just something to consider, especially when you look at Justin Fields as being the franchise quarterback for a long time. You give him a piece like that, that'd be great. But it's not happening, so we don't have to worry about it. Akeem Hicks is extremely important to this team. Josh Woods said it. Everybody says it.
Damn it.
Extend Allen Robinson. But as we go back to that conversation, Rodney Adams needs to step up. Somebody needs to step up. But at the same time, as I kind of go on the opposite side of that, like, we have seen teams have success without that. You don't need 3 top wide receivers to, win the Super Bowl. Did the Buccaneers do it? Yes, they did. And they have the formula of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, all the guys over there. Antonio Brown is the name I was forgetting. Antonio Brown, that's one of the arguably the best wide receiver core in the league. But look at the team that they played. After Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, who is it? It's Mecole Hardman. It's Brian Pringle. It's, a bunch of guys who can score whenever the hell they want, but they're not consistent. And you look at San Francisco, a team that made the Super Bowl years ago. I mean, who are they dealing with? Deebo Samuel and a few other guys who you probably can't even remember, who I can't remember. So it's not entirely a necessity to have 3 consistent top wide receivers like that. You know what I mean? So I just kind of, I wouldn't be as worried about that as maybe I was about 2 minutes ago. So that I just did that for myself there. Kind of made me think twice. So no Akeem Hicks for Odell.
No, Jesus Christ, no. Speaking of these positions of worry, I mean, we kind of addressed the cornerback position, and it looks like it's going to be Burns and Vildor, assuming, depending on Trufant and his situation. But offensive line is something we've been talking about a lot, and actually the Bears have a decision to make coming up. When the final 53 roster finalization happens after the 3rd preseason game, we're going to find out if they expect Tevin Jenkins back at all or not. Because if they put him on IR right away, that's it. It's over. I mean, you're not seeing him until next year. If they put him on the initial 53 and then they put him on IR, there's a chance we see him. Granted, even without this whole Tevin Jenkins situation, and I said this at the beginning of the show, you're probably going to see Peters and Ifedi play this week because they just need the reps, and they haven't been playing. They haven't been practicing. They just need the raw reps in general. It's a numbers game. You said last week you were kind of on your soapbox for Jermaine Ifedi a little bit. You were defending him and a little bit. And then I kind of went back and I read a couple things, read a couple athletic pieces, read a couple pieces from around the internet from our friend Adam Hogue too. And I actually didn't realize kind of the numbers compared to his time with the Seahawks that it was like over the last half of the season. He actually wasn't that bad. So I hate to admit it, but Kevin was right. Yes. Kevin was right, which makes me sick to say.
This is my favorite.
You're writing it down, aren't you?
I love this.
You're writing it down. All right, well, I'm not going to say it again, but that gives me a little bit more hope for this offensive line. Now it kind of just depends on Peters. He was good with the Eagles Super Bowl run 4 years ago. He was 35. Now he's 39. He was saying he could still play. He was saying he's still an elite athlete. I like the confidence. I'm glad he has that confidence in himself. The only thing that makes me feel a little bit better about the Jason Peters situation, because like I said last week, there was a reason he was unemployed. There was a reason he was fishing in a creek when he got the call to come play. Granted, Juan Castillo is the guy that made him kind of good again a few years back. Said, all right, yeah, Jason, we just had to get him to square up and, face his opponent on the other side, and he started playing better. So if it's as simple as that, awesome, and you can stay healthy, great. But also, furthermore, there's a lot of Larry Borum love coming out of camp and coming out of these games. Like a lot of Larry Borum love. Your 5th round tackle that you took, who you thought would be the right tackle of the future, maybe. Everything you read, and even he passes the eye test, you might have a future. If you have to move Tevin Jenkins back to right tackle because that's where he played all of college and that's where he was dominant, I'm not going to complain. If Jason Peters goes down and, it obviously we never advocate for injuries anywhere, but if Larry Borum can come in and solidify himself, even if it's the last few games of the year, as like a guy you could count on for the future, that's going to help you infinitely going forward over the next few years. They have a cheap, under control rookie offensive lineman that can play tackle very capably, very well, in above average position. 1,000% that'll set you up for years.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And they were highlighting that on the broadcast. I don't know if you noticed, they kept kind of taking a look at Larry Borum, focusing in on him on some of the plays where the protection was clean, and he was holding his own. And again, yes, he's going against those third stringers and whatnot, but he looked good. And for some reason, maybe Matt Nagy has a knack for finding players, or Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace has a knack for finding players in the later rounds, and that includes offensive linemen. You look at how good Sam Mustipher and Alex Bars were last year as undrafted players in the past. Now Larry Borum is a 5th rounder. I mean, I guess Arlington Hamber and Lachavious Simmons haven't really lived up to expectations, you could say, but that Larry Borum was 2 rounds higher than those guys. I think that is not outrageous to assume he could get some serious time there this year. If anything goes wrong with Jason Peters, or if he's just not playing well enough, it's like, what do you have to lose? So I'm 1,000% glad you brought that up, because also the ripple effect it could have on the line in the future with Tevin Jenkins. That is a very, very important point to consider. But also, you kind of popped into my mind that whole IR situation with Tevin Jenkins. Do they value that extra roster spot? Is there a position group where they say, look, we really need an extra roster spot here, and for that case, we're just on the safe side going to put Tevin Jenkins on the IR and leave him out for the season? Okay, he's gone. We get to add another roster spot because we didn't expect him to come back anyway. That could be a scenario. I mean, this roster is loaded in certain places. The running back room kind of is the one that pops into my mind, especially when you look at the way Khalil Herbert played, but also Artavis Pierce is still a guy who I think is really capable. CJ Marable didn't look great. Ryan Nall, I think, was out, didn't really get much time. He didn't have a single carry.
He played a long snapper.
Oh, he played it long. Did he? Did he play it long snapper? It was in practice. That was practice.
Practice.
I'm
misremembering that.
So, if you look at that running back room,
somehow, some way, Ryan Nall is going to find a way out of this roster. Damn it!
You're goddamn right. I don't know how, but it's
God.
you're exact. It's gonna be he's gonna be long snapper. He'll be the backup
special
punter.
teams.
I don't know. Yeah. Special teams. I don't know. But no, seriously, look at the running back room. I mean, they usually carry 4, right? 4 guys, I would say, typically is the case. David Montgomery 1, Tariq Cohen 2, Damon Williams 3. Let's say Khalil Herbert 4 at the moment. Artavis Pierce 5. I mean, that's 5 guys that I think all should make the roster. Maybe that's just one position group that they say, look, we need that extra roster spot for that sake. If it's that important to them, Tevin Jenkins, we're going to put you on AR because we don't realistically think it's possible you're going to come back this year.
And we can get more into this next week, but I think if they were going to try and save create a new roster spot, I think it'd be on the defense, because you're going to have to keep a lot of defensive backs. So
I was thinking about that too.
I mean, we could.
Safeties
we could. Yeah, right. I just threw them all defensive backs, but last 5 minutes here. What's obviously all eyes are going to be on Justin Fields this weekend against Tennessee, but I mean, there's a couple guys on this roster who could use a big day, and I mean, Javon. Most of the receivers are one of them. Justin Fields, obviously, we expect him to play well and kind of show what he can do. But I mean, these offensive linemen. I mean, I think when you're looking at who needs to have a big day, I mean, positions that you're going to watch. I mean, at the top of the list, I think is Rodney Adams, Javon Williams, Riley Ridley. I mean, those are the biggest ones. I think probably some of these defensive backs, Artie Burns, Kendall Wilder, Thomas Graham. Like there's guys that are coming up here that, it's the last preseason game and people are going to be like, there's really nothing to watch, blah, blah. The people are going to put it on as the background noise probably. But I mean, there's going to be position battles that are going to be decided on Saturday.
Oh, there will be many. I mean, like every year it happens and we seem oblivious to it, but there's going to be a surprise cut. There's going to be a surprise cut. I expected cut, who's going to get cut. There's going to be a guy who we not expect to make the team, who's going to make the team. And sometimes it's just all it takes is one play. It takes one play to show out in preseason game 3, and that's all the coaching staff needed to push it over the edge, naming your starter. So players I look at who need to have a big day. Duke Shelley, he's listed right now on defense as the 3rd right side cornerback. If he does not have a good day, he's gone. Cut. Snap, goodbye. Other guys who kind of like, I'm just going to kind of start a little bit deeper. James Waters, I don't know if he's going to make the team. He has to play well. Our guy Josh Woods has to play well because Caleb Johnson played really well. Charles Snowden played pretty well. Both guys who are listed as 4 stringers. Josh Woods, our guy, needs to have a day, but they really like him in Chicago. We knew about that. I think Iggy needs to have a big day.
He's a forgotten man.
He's a forgotten man because Iggy's listed as number 2 on the current depth chart, but Ogletree has for sure surpassed him since the last one came out. And now you look at the offensive side of the ball. Let's just, go a little bit deeper. Yeah, Javon Williams, Daz Newsom's not going to get cut, but I think he needs to have a day. I think he needs to have opportunities. I think he needs to get some time. I think Damon Williams needs to have a big day. He's not going to get cut either, but I think he was kind of looking for a bounce back game. He fumbled in the past game. He didn't play that well. He can show a little bit more of what he can do. Again, he's not a guy who we're going to look at as a cut player. But just, for the sake of Tariq Cohen being out, you need to see a lot from Damian Williams to kind of put some ease on your mind that he's going to fill in that second running back real well. Other than that, man, I think everything else is pretty much locked in. I don't want to say locked in, but other players that you can look at aren't going to get cut. There's a lot of stuff that is not locked in. There's a lot of stuff that's not locked in, but I'm just kind of looking at the depth chart and I'm like, I think I can tell if I were to make a guess about who's going to get cut today, I think I'd get 95%. But again, that could all change. I literally just said 5 minutes ago, guys get cut that we don't expect it to. That's why I said 95%, not 100%. Who are you looking at though as we're about to wrap up here?
I mean, you mentioned the big ones. I mean, Josh Woods especially, he's a good special teamer. He's our guy. But they might only keep 4 inside linebackers, which is, kind of that's when the Tevin Jenkins situation will come into play. All the receivers I think is the most interesting to me because I'm just interested to see who they value because you'll be able to tell from who they keep among the receivers, who they value and why. Like obviously Rodney Adams, potential deep play threat that they're going to keep and they're going to, want to see what he has. Daz Newsome, like you said, I don't think they're going to cut him. He kind of fell into the 6th round, but he's injured. They're going to want to see more of what he can do. So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of position battles, and the final rosters have to be in on Tuesday the 31st, so a day before we go on. And so that's going to be perfect for us because then we're going to come back here at 8 p.m. Central on twitch.tv/Chicago for real. We're going to have another fire open, and it's going to be awesome. And then we're going to debate this roster, and we're probably going to be really mad about Justin Fields lighting it up against Tennessee and how he should be starting. And then I'm going to have to talk Kevin off the ledge again and just tell him to suck it up and deal with it for a couple weeks. And then when we get him in the regular season, it'll be fine. But there's going to be a lot to break down because there's 53 spots. Like Kevin said, there's going to be surprise cuts. There's going to be guys we expect to get cut, we don't expect to get cut, who make the roster, we didn't expect to make the roster, so on and so forth. But it's nice that you could come out knowing that you got guys like Jesse James and Alec Ogletree who were the surprise guys. And you already know hey, all right, we got some contributors here. That's always nice. Like we said, it's not a Tanner Gentry where it's a flash in the pan and he's great in training camp, and then just nothing happens in the game. So that's always special. Quickly, 30 seconds to predict the Justin Fields stat line.
21 of 26, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to make predictions like that because who knows how long he's going to play and who knows how hard the defense is going to try. But we're going to watch still because we want to see who makes this roster or not. We'll be back a week from today to break down the roster, to break down who makes it, who doesn't, to start looking ahead to the regular season because preseason will be over by the time we next talk. So catch us here, 8 p.m. at our regular time next week. That's on Twitch. Podcast listeners, we appreciate you too. Hey, not everyone has the time, but thanks to everyone for coming through. We expect and hope we get to see you next week. Thank you for listening. And for myself and Kevin, bear down.